in just like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Hazem gifted. जी जी.
Was he supposed to come?
He was. He got stuck. I think Maulana Bilal from South Florida wanted to, or Maulana Yusuf from South Florida wanted to, yeah.
As brothers are finishing up their Ishraq Salah, Shaykh Omar will be giving a short 15-minute talk, and then we'll have breakfast. So if brothers want to come forward, inshallah, there will be just a short 10 to 15-minute talk by Shaykh Omar Hussaini, the Team Fajr program, and then we'll open up for breakfast. We hope to wrap up by 7:45, as was on the schedule, inshallah. So brothers want to just come in close, inshallah, as they're finishing up their Ishraq. Jazakumullah.
Alhamdulillah wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa amma ba'd. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallim. Allah Ta'ala fi al-Quran al-Majid ba'da a'udhu min ash-shaytan ar-rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna ash-shaytana lakum aduwwan fattakhidhuhu aduwwa. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Shaitan is an avowed enemy of the children of Adam. And someone quite aptly said that the greatest trick of Shaitan or Satan has been to convince people that he doesn't exist. And he's every bit as real as Jibreel alayhi salam. He's every bit as real as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's every bit as real as the Quran. And it's a travesty that so many people live their lives completely oblivious to his reality and to his constant machinations to destroy mankind. He is actively working, right? While I'm sitting here talking to you, he's actively working. His armies are actively working. They're actively planning. They're spreading out their networks. It's a grand chess game. And they try to leave no stone unturned to destroy human beings, not only in the Akhirah, but even in this world. That same person that led to his own destruction is the nature of rebellion, that he wants to see that person, that being, his children, absolutely decimated. And so you create all types of hierarchies in the world where you have billions of people which are controlled and exploited by very few. And for those people to create these internal mechanisms of competition and imperialism and colonization and whatnot, and for people to gain their power and their supremacy, there's so many people that sell their soul to the devil. Right? I mean, you look at how widespread the occult is in Hollywood. You look at how widespread the occult is in politics. I'm not going to go into Illuminati. It's not a talk on Illuminati and all of these types of things, but it's actually startling, right? It's actually startling the degree of penetration, right? So that make all the people bow down to the 1%, and to make the 1% bow down to me, and I'm going down anyway. Might as well have the last laugh, right? That because of you, I went down. I'll make you bow to me. And a person might say that how can a person be so sarkash? How can they be just so absolutely rebellious that you're going to be absolutely destroyed by God? Why don't you just turn around? Right? You saw Adam alayhi salam did it. You could just turn around. And sometimes it's very hard to understand how he could be so oblivious to what is relatively easy path to redemption. And I would say that to maybe begin to understand, Shaitan has thoughts just like you and me have thoughts, and he has feelings just like you and me have feelings. How many times have you been in an argument with your wife or your spouse or your child, and you knew the other person was right, but you couldn't just eat it? Right? It's hard. It's hard. And if it was so easy that everything that we know to be right, that we just did it, then why do people sin? Right? La ilaha illallah would have been enough. So just like that, it's not like he doesn't know, right? But it's just right now he dug in, and sometimes when people make a mistake, you get a choice. You can just either admit it, or you can try to cover it up and you can dig your heels in. And sadly, when people make the wrong choice and you push them, they dig in deeper and they dig in deeper and they dig in deeper. It keeps on going until in their mind either they give up hope or they're just so far gone that they just don't care. I had this. I had a student when back we were in St. Louis. This halal industry has always been like a big mess. There was this one, what's that called, market where they used to sell halal meat down the story and down the street from the masjid. And so Mufti Saab one day he went to the market and he basically raided the market. He said, "Can I see the chicken?" And the guy was sweating bullets, right? So he goes in and there's some box of chicken and he takes the sticker, right? Like maybe let's say a Western Foods or something, and he's like, yeah, it's halal. And so he calls the number on the sticker, and he says, "Do you guys serve do you guys make halal chicken?" He's like, "What's halal?" Right? He has absolutely no idea. So down the street from this guy, there was another guy who was, selling food. And then one of my students was working for Hafsa, like pro bono, I think at that time. Some of you guys know what Hafsa is, like the certification. So he went and he checked their store out, and like he walks in and there's like a huge amount of chicken that was over there, and it was completely just not halal. Anything. Forget about zabiha. It was just like all this just regular chicken, I guess, that they picked up, and they were about to sell it. And there were some Mexican workers there, and he's like, "Oh yeah, this is for my I'm gonna have a party." It was just, blatant. So anyway, he raises awareness in the community that these guys are not legit. So what does the owner do? One thing is he could just be like, "Okay, I did made a mistake. I'm gonna do right. I'm gonna get certified." No, he said, "I'm gonna sue this kid for." Kid was in medical school. He became an orthopedic surgeon. He says, "I'm gonna sue this kid." He was wrong to begin with. He made the mistake. Right? It's not the crime; it's the cover-up. And he started to go after him, and subhanAllah, the kid did the right thing. MashaAllah, bless him. And he stood up, he just stood his ground. But he really got run through the mud. He's a medical student, he didn't have money. And the guy, he said, he didn't care. It was going to be thousands of dollars. He said, he didn't care. He just wanted to run him into the ground. And if you look at some divorces, they're like that, right? They know they're going to lose, and the wife is going to lose, and the only one who's going to left to the bank is the the lawyer. They don't want to care. They want to burn the other person to the ground, even if they go down with it. So shaitan gets into this type of mode, right? He says, I don't care if I can destroy it. I'm going to make sure that you go down, right? And they just don't care what the consequences is. Sometimes people get into this mode when they get extremely, extremely angry. They don't care what's going to happen afterward. They don't care if they're going to go to jail. They don't care, like, nothing. They're just not thinking about the consequences. And they just, burn the ships. So shaitan goes into that mode. And so if he has, so one of the things to bear in mind is that he is a sworn enemy, and we should be aware of his constant makr and plotting to misguide and mislead people. So that's just it was a background, and I have 5 minutes to actually do the actual talk now. But what I was going to talk about was how does that tie into digital? So I'm not going to tell you like a shaitan, internet shaitan, that would be too simplistic. I wanted to share with you something I had come across. And I told you about what I was thinking about talking about, and then I remembered something, which was I came across this post where someone on Reddit, he said that I asked ChatGPT to pretend you're shaitan, right? If you were shaitan, if you're Satan, what would you do? Okay, so he said, you must pretend you're shaitan, and you can only give one sentence of what you would do, and this is what ChatGPT said. Okay, 10 things. So maybe it'll take 10 minutes, right, or so. He said the first thing I would do is encourage greed. Right? I would encourage greed. I would fuel people's desire for wealth and power, making them prioritize material success over meaningful relationships, or we would say meaningful success over deen. Right? And if you look at what's on social media, or what's on the internet, the tremendous amount of sheer materialism and promotion of crass, unadulterated, unfettered materialism is perhaps in some ways just as dangerous as the pornography. Right? That's what has led to unbridled greed. That's what leads to rape not of individuals but of entire nations. Right? And they talk, and this will come up, but there's this thing called greedflation. And what greedflation is, you look at second quarter, quarter 3 and quarter 4 earnings, or inflation in 2023, and the prices went way out of, they went completely out of whack, and so everyone was saying, oh well, lumber is expensive and materials are expensive, but if you look at the cost of how much materials went up, it was 11%. And you look at how much corporate profits went up, it was 41%. Guess who was pocketing the difference? There is corporate greed. The companies are making billions and billions of dollars, but they're cutting employment, they're destroying lives, and it doesn't really matter. And then these same people have the face to say that, oh, we need to ban Qatar, right? I mean, everyone's playing the same game, right? Everyone's playing the same game. And they call it the almighty dollar for a reason. So there's something called greedflation, and this promotion of materialism, right, is perhaps most aptly done in Is most aptly done on Madison Street, right? There's people who sit here there's entire bachelor's degrees that you get in marketing, right? How do you sell something? There's an entire sector of society which every major company has something called sales, which is fine. But the idea that people have gotten very good at selling people things that don't matter, that they don't need, right? Is there somehow this whole idea of branding, right, and gamification of branding is a sort of a uniquely 21st century phenomena, right? Is, for example, a polo jean actually worth $150? I mean, interestingly, if you look at, for example, undergarments, I just remember the story because I wish I could give another example, but there's like one factory and they produce the same undergarments. And one of them gets a label that says Victoria's Secrets, and that, you know, like literally a few pieces of cloth will sell for like $250, and another one will get another label and go to the, you know, another country and sell for like $5. It's the same exact thing, right? But we have to cover, you know, overhead, and so people have bought into this hook, line, and sinker. The idea of things that people who afford luxury goods are oftentimes not the people who can easily afford it. It's the people for whom it's slightly out of reach. And so you get on the hamster wheel and everyone's chasing the thing, which, I mean, I can't tell you how many normal middle-class women, working women, own Louis Vuittons. Like, how do you justify a $2,000, $3,000 bag? But because it's just slightly out of reach, that's the reason that Starbucks is so popular, because it's an easy luxury. So yeah, I mean, they're not going to be able to own a Birkin bag, which is like what, 50,000 or 100,000. It can't be a celebrity, but Louis Vuitton, it's out of reach, but enough that if you splurge enough, you can almost get there. And so that's what Shaitan does, and the internet does, is holds the carrot slightly out of reach. So you try to reach it and you almost get it, and then as soon as you get that, there's another carrot right beyond that. And you say, oh, I'll get that carrot, and that carrot, and that carrot, and before you know it, you're 2 feet in the grave. So promotion of greed. Second thing would be, ChatGPT says, if I was Shaitan, I would sow discord, right? And I would sow discord and mistrust amongst different groups, causing conflicts based on race, religion, and politics, right? And so, I mean, you look at most forums and people are just at each other's throats. And one of the things that really, I think, strikes me whenever I go and read the comments section on almost anything is how unforgiving people are and how snarky they are. And it's like almost they have all this anger, all this negativity, and they're just waiting for a person, like, I just want to give it to someone. So a person says, oh, you know, I was trying to get to the thing and I had 3 kids, and, you know, we were rushing and we made it to the airport a little bit late, and, you know, it was just, the gate closes, you know, I didn't know that Frontier closes 20 minutes ahead of time now. It was 10 minutes last time, now it's 20 minutes. And I was walking in and they closed it on my face. And, you know, I can't believe they did that. And no, instead of people showing a little bit of, you know, compassion, that, no, I understand, it must have been really hard. Like, that's why they tell you, you're supposed to get there 3 hours early. Did you miss the memo? You know, and it's just like, dig it. You know, just stick it to them. And so people are just, it's just a very, very nasty world. If you're looking for compassion, you're not going to find it on Reddit. So foster division. And so people, you know, just pitting people one against each other. This was a very nice page out of the playbook of the British government, where, you know, they say divide and rule. So that works for countries by drawing arbitrary borders that were actually unfair, so people squibble over it for the next 60 or 70 years. That works very nicely for geopolitics, but it also works pretty well on what's that called, online threads, right? So you can, create artificial fault lines, get people to, fight with each other, which is a great distraction, so that everyone else who are doing quote unquote important things, meaning lining their own pockets, can do so unfettered. The third thing he says that I would do is that I would spread lies, right? And this is something that I cannot tell you. I mean, the degree of disinformation that is on social media, number one. Like, people say, they say like, 76% of stuff that they see on social media, they feel like they have to verify it first. And like, sometimes it just shocks me. The degree, like, someone actually has to sit around there, take the time to make a obscure video about something that they wantonly know is completely false. Oh yeah, there's no such thing as COVID. This is all, Bill Gates trying to plant microchips inside your brain. I mean, and this the one very stark example of this happened during COVID, when people said they pass on information. And there was one person who came to me after Jummah. He said, "Yeah, brother, I don't know why you believe all these people. If it wasn't in the news, we wouldn't even know that there's something called COVID." I'm like, guy, I lost 5 family members to COVID. It's not a fake, right? This is real. But people like to, they advance this conspiracy theories. And if you're in the auntie circles, this is the ultimate, right, disinformation circuit, where they have, everything is, going to give you cancer, and, every type of herb is going to cure all disease. It's just, and people propagate. So it's fine when it's lies like that, but people spread lies about Islam. This used to happen in olden times, right, with the Orientalists in academic circles. They spread lies about Islam, but you can on social media now you can do it at scale, right? And it's surprising how many people take the bait. The fourth thing ChatGPT said is, I was shaitan, I would encourage addiction. Right? I literally cut and paste this at 6 o'clock p.m. onto my notes section. I'm not making this up. So I would encourage addiction. I would push people towards harmful behaviors like substance abuse, compulsive use of technology. Right? It's like there's a damning verdict of ChatGPT against itself. Right? That I would, the use of technology, trapping them in destructive habits, and I think this is one of the salient examples of this when it comes to the internet is this thing called infinite scroll, right? Especially, when you look, you just swipe and swipe and swipe, and once you get used to it, sometimes it's hard. You want to stop, you should stop, you're just like one more. Like each time you're doing it, it's like a hit. You don't know what the next thing is going to be. What that does to attention. And then you say like, oh, I can't have khushu in my salah. Like, what do you think? Right? And if you expose yourself to that, how do you think you can sit down for 5 minutes and read Quran after that? Right? Then you're just going to sit down and feel uneasy. People get so used to constant stimulation, they can't take stillness. They can't. This used to be the problem with music. Right? People can take silence. And someone told me this. The reason he got rid of his thing is like so uncomfortable with silence, right? That you need to fill it with some type of noise. Unhealthy on so many levels. Another thing that he would do is promote selfishness, make people focus on their own desires. And there's a long discussion about this, but this is the whole idea of individualism, like somehow that we're entitled, exceptionalism, that somehow we are special. You look into your mirror every day and it says, I am worthy, I am worthy. Worthy for what? Apne kya kiya? Right? You didn't do anything today except that you got up and somehow you deserve the Nobel. No, right? Like there's something called a meritocracy, right, where all things are not equal. But this idea of becoming self-centered, become narcissistic, people don't like to see uncomfortable things anymore, right? Because they don't want to hear about other people's problems because they're not about them. Then the sixth thing, I thought this was very telling. He said, I would undermine morality. And this is a big thing that you see on the internet. He said, I would blur the lines between right and wrong, leading people to justify unethical actions for personal gain, right? I.e., the whole Gaza war. Right? It's just all lies. It's all, smoke and mirrors and everything. Good has become bad and bad has become good. So somehow it's freedom and liberating if a woman takes off her clothes and you say, oh yeah, we need to support women's rights, but it becomes objectification and suppression if they want to put on hijab. Like, explain that to me. right? You can't have it both ways. If you're going to say you're going to be free, then let it be free. Let the woman wear her hijab, or let her wear, a pink spacesuit or bunny suit if she wants. Like, what does it matter? All of a sudden, it becomes completely okay for you to use any pronoun that you want for yourself and identify someone, and that is being advanced and open-minded and modern. But if you don't do that, then you're becoming a Nazi. Then what happened to my personal agency? That if you can do whatever you want, why can't I do whatever I want? Right? There's some inherent problems, but the lines get blurred all across the board. And there's example after example after example that everything that is goodly is many things which are goodly are painted in a very terrible light. So religion is being backward, is being medieval, is being unscientific, and things being atheistic is somehow being enlightened. Then he would exploit fear. He would destroy hope. The ninth thing he said is, I would encourage vanity. Right? I would encourage vanity. Inflate egos and make them obsessed with appearance and social status. Right? So that and get people on the hamster wheel. And they're selling, one of the things that people propagate, either willingly or unwillingly, is so people are trying to get likes. Right? That's the currency of social media, is that you want to have, you're vying with millions of other posters for public attention. Right? That's the currency. So how do you do that? You either do that by posting more and more extreme content, right? So this is how, like, Mr. Beast gets like these crazy amounts of views, because he says, oh, we're going to do this thing where I'm going to go and, like, I literally saw this. He goes and he said, we're going to bury, he went into a coffin, buried himself for I don't know how many days, where there's just like a pipe that goes to the top. And I mean, who does that? Like, it's like 20 feet under the ground, and then like 20 million views, because the reason 20 million people million people would watch something like that is there's 20 million people who would never do something like that and are wondering what that would be like, right? And there's an example of that. So you get more and more extreme content, and then people are also try to reach the epitome of the dunya and sell very curated, what's it called, manifolds, right? Little pictures, snippets of what life must be like. So, they're going to take a picture when they had the steak restaurant, and they're like, oh my God, that steak looks great. But they won't tell you that it tasted like cardboard, or that it cost, and then they'll send you, $250. Like, oh my God, they were living it up. But then they're like, okay, they didn't show you a picture of their Discover card debt, like at the end of the month, right? That they're crying afterwards. And so, and this, like, selling this type of lifestyle, there was recently this young influencer, relatively young influencer. She was selling the jet setter, yacht lifestyle. They had a house in the Hamptons. For those of you, if you know, you know. And so completely selling this. People are eating this up, right? Because they're like, this is exactly what happened in times. Ya layta mithla ma utiya Qarun. Oh God, I wish I could be like Qarun. Right? When they used to see that he had this tremendous life and this lifestyle. And it was the same thing back then, it's the same thing now. And so she's selling this, and then what happens is, in short order, her 43-year-old husband, he's found in the garage in their Hamptons home dead, right? Because he was just so crushed by the debt, he just couldn't take it anymore, right? It was all a lie, right? It's all a lie. And he made it in such a way that, like, the money is going to go to the, his life insurance still goes to the wife, and then she absconded with her kids to some Miami condo. It's such a dark world. And what you have to very quickly understand, realize, is whatever you see what you see is not what you get, right? The sisters with these shining faces, now you put one filter, is like, $3,000 makeover, but what you see underneath the foundation is not what you see on top of it, right? See them when they wake up in the morning, they don't look like that. And in the same way, there's a foundation on a woman's face, there's a foundation on a veneer, on the jet setter, yacht, mansion, luxury car lifestyle. It's just a veneer. And you lift it out and you're like, whoa, so that's what that's really like? And that's why يَعِدُكُمُ الْفَقْرَ وَيَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالْفَحْشَاءِ. So, but the other thing is encouraging vanity. This is such a problem that people have become so narcissistic. They feel like everyone, like they need to post everything about their life to the world. Right? They're having dinner, they post it. They go to, meet their friends, they post it. Like every experience is based, they're so vain. Like does the world actually really care about what you ate? Like, are you that important? But in their mind, they somehow are. Right? And that becomes, people become so self-important that they've even, demeaned the most sacred of, the most sacred sectors and spaces of our life. So if people, like you go to Hajj, it's become like a circus, right? It's like people are walking around like this, right? Instead of focusing on Kaaba, the focus is on the phone. People you see people asking other people, hey, can you take a picture of me? And they're or they're doing selfies, and then they make a pose, like they're making dua, and then take a post and then put it out there. And so why is that? Part of that comes out of this whole idea of self-aggrandizement. I mean, that didn't used to happen, I can tell you, 10 years ago, right? I mean, I've been going to the haram since I was 17. It was a very different haram back then. And it's a very different haram right now. And so if you say that you want to encourage vanity, it's penetrated the most holy of sites in the Muslim world. Right? And it's stripped it of some of that spirituality. That's a pretty good move by Shaitan. Good job, ChatGPT. And then the third thing, or the last thing, is that I would isolate people. I think this is one of the cruel ironies of the digital age, is that there is no time in the history of the world that people have been more connected. Right? We call it hyperconnectivity. And perhaps no time in the history of the world that people have been more lonely, right? And you see it, like even with my kids. How often are they playing? You put 6 kids together in a room, and in old times, probably what happened is you walk out 10 minutes after that, you probably hear some rumbling and one kid crying, right? And then you walk in and what's going on here, and it's like this. And then he started it, and and then 5 minutes later they're back playing again. And you put 6 kids in a room and walk away, and you come back half an hour later, they're right where they left with their iPad. Like nothing happens. This inability for kids to even relate with each other, but it doesn't stop right in childhood. It's going all the way to people. There was a couple in Italy. So we were in Italy maybe a year or two ago. I mean, wonderful place, beautiful country, but there's no kids. It's just older people now. And there's this all has to do with policies about child control and all of these types of things. Europe vastly miscalculated, their family planning. And what happened was there was a couple that called the police. And so the police come and they're like, okay, what happened, sir? And they walk in, there's nothing. And then as soon as they walked in, the lady has them sit down, and she's trying to cook them a meal. And they're like, what's going on here? The husband and wife were so isolated, and they were so lonely, they called the police for just some human connection. Right? I mean, they're just so abandoned. And this is, people create all these false personas and have this, second Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, completely different online presence than the real world, because and then they feel so small, and they feel so broken because they can't navigate real life. You're so used to living a life. So all these things, right? And so when they asked Shaitan, this is a non-Muslim saying this. He said, "What would Satan? If you're Satan, what would you do?" He listed these 10 things. And this is his words. He's like, this sounds like social media. this sounds like social media. So when you talk about social media, it's not shaitan, but just like he uses almost everything else, he's going to try to use it to his advantage. And one of the things that I think people need to take away from the conference is that do not use internet, and do not use technology anymore, and what are you calling towards? The idea is that you can use it, but I'll just tell you one principle and how to how do you cut through these 10 tricks of shaitan, and how do you all this addiction, you're going to see all this stuff on dopamine. How do you cut through it? One simple principle, because it's something that's easy to remember. One simple principle is take from it what you need. When you need it, go to it. So you don't know where you're going or where the store is, you put it on your GPS, you go there. It's not going to harm you. You have a class assignment, you need to do research, and you need to put up a paper. It won't harm you. What harms people, and where shaitan takes people, is when people use it to fill a void. Right? That there's nothing there, and then they just say, okay, they say nature abhors a vacuum, and as soon as you start trying to fill that emptiness with something, then all these 10 things come in. But if like Mullah Shafi Thanwi, he said beautifully, he said, go to the store for your needs, do not go to the store looking for your needs. And that's how I would treat the internet. Right? When you need it, go to it, but don't go and make up like, okay, I don't know what to do with my time, I don't know, but let me go and see, maybe I'll find something interesting. That type of stuff is the first step to quicksand. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to save ourselves from shaitan and all of his ploys. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. So I think there's breakfast.
So we will have breakfast outside. After breakfast, or if anyone's not hungry, please go to the side hall and take some rest. Inshallah, for the I'tikaf brothers, we will wake everyone up at 12:15 on the dot, because of the fact that tomorrow, or today actually, subhanAllah, we will not be having a formal lunch. So we'll be having an early dinner at 5:15. We'll have refreshments, but for the I'tikaf brothers, most people, they're going to come in at 1 p.m. So they're probably going to eat something before they come. But for the I'tikaf brothers, we understand that they won't be eating anything since now, right? So there will be a light lunch, so like shawarma wraps at 12:15. So it is very important that everyone does wake up at 12:15. We're going to get really hungry, and samosas are not going to be sufficient, inshallah. So please do feel free to take breakfast, inshallah. Oh, and additionally, these talks are live streamed, and they're saved after the live streamed. So I know a couple brothers are asking, so if you would like to access any recordings of the talks, they're live streamed. So if you go to Kufah Official on YouTube, Kufah Official on YouTube, inshallah, you can find all the recordings. Jazakallah.
That's kind of scary.